Okay, so picture this. You're in the Mediterranean, right? Sun's beating down. But instead of those beautiful golden fields of grain, all you see is dry, cracked earth.
Yeah.
That's the future we're looking at for cereal crops,
Mm-hmm.
like wheat and barley, unless we can figure out a way to make them uh, more drought resistant.
Right.
And that's what we're diving into today.
Exactly.
You guys wanted to know how scientists are tackling this, so we're going deep, deep into a research paper that's basically like a detective story.
Yeah.
Except instead of fingerprints and clues, we've got data, all this data, on how different cereals, cope with drought.
It's a pretty ingenious study, actually. So they took a whole bunch of different cereals, including modern varieties, of course, but also some lesser-known types.
Okay.
And they basically put them through like this drought boot camp.
A drought boot camp for plants.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
They wanted to simulate, future drought conditions.
Right.
So they delayed planting, exposed the plants to higher temperatures, lower humidity, and then obviously gave them way less water than they'd normally get.
Yeah.
It was a real test to see, like, how resilient they were.
So they cranked up the heat and took away their water bottles
Exactly.
to see who could handle it.
Yep.
I like it. Makes sense. So what kind of cereals were in this botanical battle royale?
Well, they had your, like, usual suspects, so, like, modern durum wheat and
Okay.
barley, but then they also included these really fascinating groups. So ancient barley landraces.
Ancient barley landraces.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty exotic.
They are pretty cool. Think of them like heirloom tomatoes, but for barley. So
Ah.
these are older varieties that haven't been through those like really intense breeding programs
Yeah.
that just prioritize yield, yield, yield above all else. They've retained a lot more genetic diversity,
Interesting.
which might hold the key to things like drought tolerance.
So they might have some hidden superpowers that modern barley has lost along the way.
Ex
Fascinating. Okay, what about Tritordeum? I've never even heard of that one.
Tritordeum is a newer grain. It's a hybrid, actually.
Okay.
It's a cross between durum wheat and a wild barley species.
Wow.
It's gotten a lot of attention recently because it's very nutritious,
Okay.
packed with protein, fiber,
Nice.
and it's got a lower gluten content than wheat, which is a big plus for some people.
Yeah, for sure.
But what really caught the researchers' eye was its potential for drought tolerance.
Okay, so we've got our lineup.
Yep.
Modern cereals,
Yep.
ancient barley with its potential hidden talents, and a newcomer with a nutritional edge.
Uh-huh.
I like it. Okay, so what happened when they put them all through this drought stress test? Did anyone crack under pressure?
I mean, it wasn't a walk in the park for any of them.
Right.
All the cereals showed some effects of the drought stress.
Sure.
But there were definite winners, I would say. One barley landrace called SBCC 010.
SBCC 010.
Yeah, it really stood. Yeah, I mean, its yield was comparable to modern barley under normal conditions.
Okay,
But when things got dry, it held up incredibly well.
that's amazing. How did it manage to thrive when others were really struggling? Extra deep roots, some sort of secret, like, drought defense system?
It seems like its strategy was all about resource allocation. So even with limited water,
Yeah.
it focused on producing a ton of grains per year, even if those grains were like, a little smaller than usual.
Oh, interesting.
It's a clever way to make sure there's at least some yield when times are tough.
Quantity oversized when the going gets tough. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
What about Tritordeum? How did the rookie perform?
One variety called Koik
Uh-huh.
was a real surprise.
Okay.
So it didn't quite match the yield of modern wheat under ideal conditions,
Yeah.
but under drought stress, incredible resilience.
Wow. So both the ancient barley and the new hybrid, like, they had some tricks on their sleeve.
They did.
That's fascinating. But you mentioned that there were some, like, surprises in this study.
Mm-hmm.
What else did the researchers uncover?
Well, they made this pretty remarkable discovery about the role of the ear in surviving drought.
The ear.
Yeah.
Wait, the ear? I thought the leaves were, like, the photosynthesis powerhouses, the ones in charge of turning sunlight into energy.
Right.
What does the ear have to do with anything?
Yeah, that's what everyone thought.
Right.
But in this study, they found that under drought conditions, in some cases, the ears were actually photosynthesizing more than the leaves.
Hold on. So the ears were, like, pulling more weight than the leaves when it came to photosynthesis.
It seems that way.
That changes everything.
It does. We've been so focused on, improving leaf photosynthesis for years,
Yeah.
but it looks like we might have been overlooking a major player in the whole drought resistance game.
So the humble ear has been quietly doing its thing all along.
Yeah,
That's incredible. It makes you wonder what other secrets are hiding in plain sight.
absolutely. And this discovery just opens up this whole new avenue for breeding drought-resistant cereals.
Right.
Like, if we can figure out how to harness the power of ear photosynthesis,
Yeah.
That could be a real game
That
changer.
could be huge.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a step back and look at how the researchers actually measured all of this. I mean, they tracked yields,
Hmm.
obviously, but they also went a lot deeper, right?
Yeah, they went deep. They used some pretty sophisticated tools
Okay.
to really understand what was going on inside these plants, like at a fundamental level,
Yeah.
and why some were just tougher than others.
So how did they, like, crack the case? What were their tools of the trade?
Well, one technique they used is called chlorophyll fluorescence.
Okay.
It's a way to measure how efficiently a plant converts sunlight into energy.
Right.
And guess what? Both our barley landrace superstar, SBCC010, and Tritordeum, they aced this test,
Oh, wow.
even under all that stress.
So they weren't just surviving, they were thriving,
Yeah,
efficiently turning sunlight into fuel even when water was scarce.
exactly.
That's impressive. What else did they look at?
They also use something called spectral analysis. It's like taking a plant's fingerprint.
A plant fingerprint.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm really curious. How does that even work?
Basically, by analyzing how light reflects off of a plant, you can learn a lot about its chemical composition.
Interesting.
And this revealed that both Tritordeum and SBCC010 were much better at maintaining their water and nitrogen levels under drought.
Why is that important?
Well, I mean, water is obviously crucial for survival, but nitrogen is super important for plant growth and development.
Right.
Being able to maintain those levels when water's scarce,
Yeah.
that's a sign of real resilience.
So it's not just about having those, like, drought-busting superpowers. It's about keeping a cool head, literally, and keeping those essential nutrients flowing.
Exactly.
Clever strategies all around. Okay, did he discover anything else?
Well, remember that thermal imaging?
Yeah.
Well, that showed that Tritordeum was truly the king of keeping its cool.
Uh,
Its ears stayed at a lower temperature than other varieties, which protected its ability to produce those, precious grains.
Tritordeum is sounding more and more impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So far, this deep dive has been full of, like, fascinating revelations, and we're just getting started.
Yeah, there's more to come. This research, it has some pretty major implications.
Yeah.
We're talking about potentially making cereal crops way more resilient in the face of climate change.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's huge for global food security.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, cereals are such a staple for so many people around the world.
Right.
Wheat, barley, rice.
Yeah.
They're essential sources of, calories and nutrition for billions.
Exactly. And if we can help those crops thrive in these drier, hotter conditions, it could have this ripple effect across entire economies, especially in places like the Mediterranean,
Yeah.
where cereal production is like a cornerstone.
It's so important.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the science. It's about, people's livelihoods
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that everyone has enough to eat.
For sure.
So this study, it focused on barley and Tritordeum.
Right.
Do you think these findings could, like, apply to other cereal crops as well?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Like wheat or rice, that's something a lot of researchers are looking into right now,
Okay.
There's a ton of interest in seeing if these mechanisms, especially this whole ear photosynthesis thing, hold true for other species.
Yeah.
It's too early to say for sure, but it's definitely worth investigating.
Yeah, it's like opening up this whole new world of possibilities.
Totally.
We could be talking about a whole new generation of, like, climate-resilient crops.
Absolutely.
What's really exciting to me is that this research has actually pinpointed some specific genes and traits
Yeah,
linked to drought tolerance.
it's huge.
That's incredibly valuable information, right, for breeders.
Oh, absolutely. It's like having a roadmap, straight to those drought-defining genes.
Right.
Breeders can use this knowledge to, select for these traits way more effectively,
Yeah.
which could really speed up the process of developing new varieties that can handle, these tougher conditions.
It's like this perfect example of how modern technology and, like, ancient wisdom can work together.
I love that.
We're taking those lessons from nature, those hard-won survival strategies from those ancient barley landraces.
Yep.
And we're using cutting-edge science to apply them on, a much larger scale.
Totally.
Really cool.
It highlights the power of different approaches,
Mm-hmm.
but it's important to remember that there are still, some challenges ahead.
Oh, for sure.
Breeding new crop varieties is complex. It's time consuming.
Yeah.
It takes this very careful selections, a lot of testing, a lot of refinement.
It's not like we're going to have, fields full of super drought-resistant cereals next season.
No, definitely not. It takes time.
Yeah.
And there are also other considerations beyond just yield,
Sure.
We need to make sure these new varieties are nutritious,
Of course.
that they taste good,
Yeah.
and that they're suitable for different climates and
Right.
different growing conditions.
It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
We want those high yields, but not at the expense of, taste, nutrition,
Yeah.
adaptability.
Right.
And then there's the question of accessibility.
Yes.
Will these new drought-resistant varieties actually be available to
Exactly.
the farmers in the regions that need them most?
That's a really crucial point. It's not enough to just, develop these varieties in a lab.
Right.
We need to make sure that they actually reach the farmers who can benefit from them, and that
Yes.
means making them affordable,
Mm-hmm.
accessible, and
Yeah.
providing the training and support they need.
So it's a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
It's scientists, breeders, farmers, policymakers.
Hmm.
Everyone needs to be on board to make this a real-world solution.
For sure.
Developing drought-resistant crops is vital.
Yeah.
But it has to be part of like a broader approach, right, to
Totally.
addressing climate change and its impact on agriculture.
Absolutely. Things like, improving water management,
Right.
reducing greenhouse gas emission, and supporting those sustainable farming practices.
Yes.
All part of the solution.
So where do scientists go from here? What are the next steps, like, in this research?
Well, one of the key areas is really understanding, the genetic mechanisms behind this ear photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Like, how does it work?
Right.
What genes are involved?
Mm-hmm.
Can we actually manipulate those genes to enhance this trait in other cereal crops?
So we're really trying to crack the code, figure out the genetic recipe for this drought-defying superpower.
Exactly.
What else are researchers looking at?
They're also exploring other adaptive traits. For
Okay.
example, some plants have developed ways to improve their water uptake
Okay.
or reduce water loss.
Like those succulents with their plump little water-storing leaves.
Exactly. Nature is full of these brilliant adaptations.
It is.
And by studying those mechanisms, we can find even more ways to help cereal crops survive and thrive in this, drier future.
Yeah, this research has really opened so many doors.
Yeah, it has.
We've got ancient grains making a comeback,
Yeah.
hybrid heroes entering this scene, and the humble ear
Right.
revealing its hidden talents.
It's a good time to be in this field.
It's an exciting time to be following this field, for sure. And the best part is, it's not just about, science for science's sake.
Right.
It's about using our knowledge to solve real-world problems and ensure a more sustainable and food-secure future
Absolutely.
for everyone.
For everyone.
We've covered a lot of ground here, the scientific breakthroughs, the implications for food security.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious
Yeah.
about what this means for, the average person,
Right.
What can we do as consumers and citizens to support this effort? We've uncovered some pretty amazing scientific breakthroughs.
Yeah.
We talk about what this research could mean for, the future of foods.
Right.
But I'm curious, what can we do as, everyday people
Mm-hmm.
to be a part of this?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's easier than you might think. One of the simplest things is just start paying attention to where your food comes from.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I know what you mean. It's so easy to, just grab something at the store and not even think twice about, how it got there.
Exactly. But taking that extra moment to think about the journey from farm to table,
Yeah.
the challenges that farmers are facing and how climate change is impacting all of it, that's where it starts.
So step one is awareness, reading labels, doing some research, maybe even, connecting with local farmers.
Totally.
What else can we do to, make a difference?
Supporting research and innovation is huge.
Okay.
There are so many amazing organizations out there doing work on agricultural sustainability,
Right.
climate change solutions, crop improvement, model. Even small donations can really add up
Yeah.
and help them continue that vital work.
Okay, so putting our money where our mouth is and supporting the science that's going to help, feed the world.
Exactly.
Got it. Anything else?
Don't underestimate the power of your voice.
Okay.
Talk to your friends and family about these issues.
Yeah,
Share what you're learning.
right.
Support policies that promote sustainable agriculture.
Right. Starting those conversations, spreading the word, making some noise to support a more resilient food system.
Exactly.
Those are all things we could do. Is there anything else we should be thinking about, when it comes to our actual food choices?
Well, remember how this research really highlighted the power of diversity?
Yeah.
The ancient land races, the new hybrids, they all brought something unique to the table. That same principle applies to our own diets.
So you're saying we should be eating a more diverse range of foods?
Absolutely. Exploring different grains, like Tritordeum,
Okay.
supporting farmers who grow a variety of crops.
Right.
It all contributes to a more resilient and sustainable food system.
So branching out from our, usual wheat and rice routine isn't just good for our taste buds.
Right.
It's good for the planet, too.
Exactly. Every time you make a food choice, you're casting a vote for the kind of food system you want to support.
That's a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
So get informed, support the science, use your voice, and diversify your plate. Sounds like a delicious recipe for a more resilient future.
It does, doesn't it? Who knows? Maybe one day Tritordeum will be as common as wheat in our pantries.
I'm excited to see what the future holds, I'll tell you that.
Me too.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. It's been a really eye-opening journey.
It's been my pleasure. Until next time.
Until next time.